What's going on, Freedom Fam? We're back again with another video. Guys, we are going to talk about the stock market crash. Well, it didn't quite crash yet, but many people are predicting that it will. I know that many of you are fearful of it. You might be a little bit afraid. But what we're going to do in this video, we're going to show you how to be prepared for a stock market crash. Now, before we talk about how you can prepare for a stock market crash, you first have to know what a stock market crash is. Now, the way stocks work, the way the stocks have their value is actually really an artificial number. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by artificial number? Well, stocks don't really have a real value. Just like how $1 US is $1 US in America, and that's just how it is in our country, a stock is valued based off of how the people value the stock. So that's a very simple way of explaining how a stock gets its value. So what is happening when a stock market crashes? What's happening when the stock market crashes is that artificial number we spoke of, well, many people are saying, I don't know about that number. And they start to sell off. They start to not buy because they think that the market is too high, the prices are too high. And that happens usually across the board. And what that causes is a crash. Crashes are somewhat inevitable because if you think about it, when people buy and a stock is overpriced, it has to come down at some point. Now, it's very plausible that this can happen to a number of stocks. You shouldn't necessarily be scared of a stock market crash. You should be prepared for a stock market crash. And how can you be prepared for a stock market crash? Well, that's why you're on this video, right? We're gonna get into it. All right, we're gonna talk about 3 ways you can be prepared for a stock market crash. So the first way to prepare for a stock market crash is really just to have cash on hand. Cash is king in all cases, but especially when the stock market is crashing. Why is this? Well, the reason why that is because the dollar value does not fluctuate like a stock's value, right? Very clear. Everybody knows that. So why it's important to have cash on hand is for actually 2 reasons. One is because your cash is still going to be valuable down the line. Some people might say, well, I'm not too sure about that because you have all these digital currencies coming and things like that, crypto, whatever. Now that could be true, but in times past, that's kind of how you prepare. You just have cash on hand where you're going to come back with that cash and you're still going to get back in the market at some point where you're going to have that money to do whatever you actually need to do. Maybe it's just for emergencies, whatever it is, it's good to have cash on hand. The second reason it's good to have cash is something that I actually mentioned before. Well, it's good to have cash because you might have opportunities to buy a stock under what you think its value is. So as we said, in a stock market crash, stocks prices are going to plummet. Now, for some people, they might think, okay, well, this is actually a good dip. I think that this stock is actually underpriced at this point, and I have extra money on hand to put into the stock market. I'm going to buy at this point because, and this is a key that we talk about on this channel, I am a long-term investor and I believe in this company, this stock, long-term. So I'm going to take this opportunity to buy this stock at a dip and I'm going to ride it out for the long term. I'm going to consider it a discount. So that's why it's good to have cash on hand. For that reason, the first reason that we said that cash is always king, and it's good to have cash in this situation. It's always good to have cash in any situation. But number 2, that you could buy a stock that you like at a discount. Number 2, and how to make sure you're prepared for a stock market crash. Make sure your portfolio is nicely diversified. Now, it's going to look different across the board. Investors are going to be bullish in certain areas and they're going to be bearish in certain areas. I'm not going to go into what my opinion is, but the bottom line is you shouldn't be only in one sector. That doesn't really make any sense. You can't be bullish in one sector and bearish on every other sector. That just isn't smart. What that means is you want to make sure that if you're not diversified yet, you take some opportunity with that cash that you have on hand and you start to diversify your portfolio. This could be a good opportunity if the stock market does crash, because you can look into companies that you think will do well down the line long term, and you can invest in those companies at a discount. That will be slowly diversifying your portfolio. You can look at things that you think are going to be there 20, 30 years from now and doing well. So for me, I love technology, but I also love health. There's so many different ways that you can diversify your portfolio, but that's how you should be thinking. I like these stocks in my long-term portfolio because I like the company long-term. I think it's going to be doing very well in the future. That's how you should be thinking about diversifying your portfolio. Now, I should mention this quick tip. When the stock market does crash, or if it does crash, I should say, it's good to make sure that you are not being emotional. You should never be an emotional investor in the first place. Keep in mind that this is a long-term thing. Your diverse portfolio should be, in your mind, something that you're going to keep no matter what happens. You're not trying to time the market. You're only trying to get plays into plays that are going to help your portfolio long term. Most investors, in my opinion, are not going to be thinking about how to make money short term in a stock market crash. It just is probably not the smartest thing to do. So with that said, you guys pretty much get the picture. Look into different strategies on how to diversify your portfolio. One other tip I can add is that you can look into ETFs that will kind of help you with that diversification. So like if you like technology stocks, for example, QQQ is a good ETF that you could look into. Of course, there are different ways to do this. There are different ways to diversify, and we suggest that you look into these strategies because that will drastically help you in the long term. All right, so once you have cash on hand, once you diversify your portfolio, or you have a plan to diversify your portfolio, number 3, what you want to do is plan on what stocks you want to buy at what you would consider a dip. So you need to know what companies you're bullish on long term. We talked about this a little bit, but now it's time to act on it. And if you want to just make this simple, just write down, like, get a notebook, write down these companies that you've looked into, that you've researched, that you really like their fundamentals. You write down a list, you figure out, okay, here's a good entry point. We've talked about how to get into good entries and all of that. You guys could look up these tons of videos on how you could get a stock at a good entry. Now, when it crashes, it might be a bit more difficult because you can't really time the market that well. But be at a point that you say, okay, I'm comfortable getting in this stock at this point. You should be adding as well to stocks that you are bullish on long term. So if you are bullish on Apple and you have shares of Apple already, it's going to be a good opportunity for you because you like Apple in the long term. So you could buy Apple at a nice discount. So that might be something you want to look at. Okay, so guys, that's it. Those are the 3 ways to prepare for a stock market crash. Now, if you guys have some extra tips that you want to drop in the comments, please feel free. We hope that you guys got some value from this. If you want to help us out, make sure you hit the like button because that's going to help us expand our channel and add more people to the Freedom family. Make sure you subscribe as well, hit the post notification bell, and we're going to see you in the next video.